Namaste, viewers, and welcome to our Poetry Lab with Dr. Pariksith Singh. And we are continuing our discussion of this collection of poems, Satya-Poems to My Father. The last poem we looked at was The Tiger of Flame. And now we are actually going to look at a couple of Peacock poems, I guess, and an owl poem too. So, anybody who loves peacocks and owls, please join us and enjoy this conversation with the poet himself, Dr. Pariksith Singh. So, The Last Passion, page 49. And of course, the last passion refers to the last passion of Jesus. So, let's look at this poem and let's enjoy it and also try to understand it better, appreciate it better.
The Last Passion. The world is but a shade of grey to the white peacock, as it reveals a throbbing white still against a dark sky, gathering blood in vain streams of firmament and fans a single ray. As the thunder rises in pitch, he pirouettes softly, and as it coagulates, with each wave of night flashes in lightning. The outer garment, dull and dead, is shed in play, as if a million galaxies had blazed in a surge of Milky Way. There is a different drum for the feet in the display of the peacock, deeper and denser. His bliss and vision drill into rock until even death begins to radiate his dreams of ecstasy.
Yes. So, first of all, the peacock is white, and that's an albino peacock, a rare, rather rare kind of creature, just as there are white tigers, as you know, in Ranthambore. But let's look at this a little more. You just had a tiger, and now you have a peacock in white. And to me, I don't know, the image that came to my mind was of a shroud, a white shroud, because this poem is also, a part of these poems about death and about, in a sense, the afterlife. And we've had earlier poems about, the disappearance of light in a blaze of just whiteness. So, in a sense, all colors return to their origin, which is just white light, so to speak. So, but please tell us how the poem came to you, what was going through your mind, your own experiences when you were writing it.
So I have seen a white peacock physically. Was traveling to this beautiful city called St. Augustine on the other coast of Florida, and they have a nice old. I think it's it's a tower, old tower where they have a small little garden there, and I saw a white peacock, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's so white that it brings you to a very strange state of calm, and yet in that calm there is purity, but there is beauty, because even in that white is are shades of white, even in that intense white, which really takes you to a different kind of a spectrum, what you would probably call a white spectrum, whiteness into greater whiteness. And yes, there was a lot of, in our, we covered him up, and as we took him, the white sheets. White is my favorite color, by the way, so it always plays on my subconscious, uh, starting with, my love of uh, existentialists, uh, Mallarmé, Mallarmé's Swan, if you remember, and Yeats. I think Yeats had a poem on the swans. So the white, it plays on the mind, and so in an Indian setting, the white swan has a pure, is a very different setting, and then whiteness in our Vedic symbolism, and a peacock in our symbolism is a symbol of victory. So it's an ancient spiritual symbol of victory. And If you see it's an Aurobindonian symbol too. The mother used to say, when you see a peacock in your dreams, there's something has been accomplished for the divine. So, having said all that, now that you're not, yeah, I'm psychoanalyzing myself, which is never a good thing. But I kind of, there are a couple of lines here that are not bad. Although I must say, "Blood in veins, streams of firmament" reminds me of Christopher Marlowe. So there is somewhere, see where Christ's blood streams in the firmament. Very powerful line. Is so somewhere it has played in the consciousness and come together in a kind of a new creation. I think it is, to me, it was kind of a purification, my own awareness, just letting go into something beautiful is coming, something is dancing, and the thunder is going on. There is darkness, everything is lost, and yet there is something beautiful, a symbol that wins over everything. So that's how, images aside, I think that was the impetus when the poem came out.
Yeah, I completely agree. Normally we see the peacock as a symbol of, not so much purity as vanity, in the sense that when it unfurls its tail, I mean, it's
Yes.
such a shimmering dance full of colors. And then Krishna's peacock feather, which is going to come
Yes.
in a couple of poems after this one, but it's always so colorful, and the colors are mesmerizingly beautiful, enchanting. And then the white peacock stands as a contrast. And you mentioned Mallarmé, and he has the famous poem Swan La Cygne, if I
The
remember
scene.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
Cygne. And of course, these are modern poets, so modernist also, symbolist, modernist poets. And when I read that poem, it reminded me, in a sense, of, we mentioned this earlier, Gajendra Moksha, of the soul being trapped in flesh and not being able to free itself. Here, the swan is virgin, vivacious, beautiful, but imprisoned in ice, and not able to get out, and you mentioned existentialists. It's a phantom bird which is in fruitless exile. So many, the tremendous futility of life as it was experienced by some of these poets of that period. And the beat of the wings, it's so futile. Of course. You mentioned the peacock as a symbol of victory. The peacock is also the Mayura, is also the ride of a great warrior, hero god,
Right.
Murugan in the
Yes.
south. You know,
Kartikeya.
so all these,
Kartikeya, right?
and the moment you mention Yeats, the wild swans of Cool, there's such a beautiful poem
Yes.
about the 59 swans, and
Yes.
and then uh, actually, it's about aging, it's about time, it's about loss, and all of these themes inhere in this collection. And I think the mystery of the afterlife, of death, of all the colors collapsing into this whiteness. Near-death experiences. Many people who have written about it, they talk about going through this tunnel of blinding light. Which at times is golden and warm to begin with, but as you go deeper into the tunnel, it becomes like a blinding white light, which it's like a fade out. And then when you were talking, I was thinking about the Paramahamsa,
Yes.
in the Mansarovar lake,
Yes.
the swan that knows how to distinguish between water and milk is the metaphor that we have. The symbol of supreme discrimination, right? That you can, and that discrimination, the viveka, the vivek and vairagya that actually lead to turya. So these are very powerful images. But can you elaborate on the swan as a symbol of victory? Now, you see that is that victory. The Paramhamsa is the
Right.
victorious swan, and not the normal peacock, because the normal peacock is trapped in the sensual enjoyment. After all, it's a mating dance, isn't it? And the
Yes.
Paramahamsa is a symbol of detachment. And detachment, in that sense, that austerity is victory, is the soul, is the soul declaring victory over the flesh. But the last passion of Christ, wow, where is that coming in? Because usually it refers to the crucifixion of Christ, you see. Uh, and I believe, if I remember my Bible and everything correctly, it's actually the temptation of Christ, in a way. That last passion, I think Nikos Kazantzakis, if I
Yes.
remember, yeah, the
Yeah.
great
Last temptation.
the great Greek writer, and then it's come into. I mean, it's like, again, I might be wrong. I have to refresh myself, but it reminded me of the temptation of the Buddha, because the legend goes that when Christ is being crucified, he's tempted by an angel. It's a beautiful woman, actually,
Yes.
and I think that's where that symbol of victory comes from, and disguised as an angel. And he's offered an ordinary life with Mary Magdalene, having children and so forth, which is the theme that Dan Brown picks up, after all, in his greatly famous and powerful bestseller that he wrote. And many people believe that that is the real story of Christ, that the resurrection and so forth. Anyhow, we're going far afield, but let's get back to the poet. Why did you call it the last passion then?
That's a very personal connection I had with my father, and the way he passed away was a very interesting. I shouldn't say interesting, but to me, it was a revelatory um, moment. And see, he was one of the most hardworking, loyal, and brilliant administrators I've seen in my life. Very intense. You probably saw him when he was really slowing down, but brilliant man, and he did a lot of work. And he reached from a very ordinary level from a state service. He reached to the highest levels, and then of course, I believe, it's my belief, of course, it's my dad, but putting that aside, if that's possible, he could have done so much more had he not been blocked, and had he not been tied up by loyalty his own loyalty to his own principles, and his own political alignment tied him up. And yet there was something much deeper in him, which came out in the last few months, few days of his passing away. And he almost, when I came to see him in the ICU, he said something very interesting. He said, "I've wasted my life. You are the one who went after true knowledge." He's telling me. And along with me was my dear friend, who, of course, Partho, who is a Vedanta teacher and a great spiritual uh, uh, acharya, as we call it. And he said, "I've wasted my life just working hard. I should have sought this knowledge that you have found." And my answer to him is, no, you have accomplished through action what I try to accomplish in knowledge. Don't look down on what you have done. It is as spiritual because it is karma yoga. And you don't have to know things, jnana yoga is also should become part of karma yoga. And it's very, so to me, that was always my regret. Not a personal regret, but a regret that our society did not have him in a higher place, because he could have done so much more. He had so much more fire in him. So to me, that was a huge loss. But when he passed away royally. He had he blessed everyone that night before, when we did not, everything was fine, and he blessed everyone, and he knew he was going to be gone. And we made fun. My elder brother said, "No, tomorrow morning we're going to laugh back at it." He blessed everyone. And then he said, "Rub my feet." The first time he has asked me, never did he ask me, "Rub my feet." and our sister-in-law, he asked her to rub his scalp. And then, of course, the body's whole process started, where he would fade in and out of consciousness. And we put on his favorite chants. Uh, so, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We put that on, and we put, Krishna around him and Sri Aurobindo. It was a very powerful, when he passed away, it's a very powerful moment to me. So that is where I transpose this last passion. There's more to it, but, let me end here. But that's why I called it the last passion. It was an eye-opening thing that usually what happens is, in our education, we start looking down on people who are doers. He was a doer. He did not seek knowledge for the sake of knowledge. He just did things. And we're talking about, he had some intuition how things had to be done right, fixed problems, society, the poor people, take care of them. He had that very powerful paropkara, serving Daridra Narayana, that very powerful instinct he had. And he would look down on all this theory that we had. But at the end of it, and it's a very powerful moment, he was hurting physically, of course. And I said, now be still, Dad. Shant ho jao, Papa. And his heart stopped. And I think I've talked about it before. To me, that was a revelatory moment. And that is why I've used that process that he went through. That is what I call the last passion.
Yeah, indeed, I agree. In fact, however we might try to mitigate, how difficult this transition is from the life to the afterlife, certainly it's going to, cause some tremendous, as it were, disturbance because of how closely tied up we are to our physical apparatus. So I think the last passion is quite apt for that transition. And I think that from what I remember of your father, I mean, he was a man of great integrity, and whenever people met him, they had so much respect for him,
Yes.
which was obviously not artificial; it was real. And
Yes.
he always wore khadi. I remember him
Yes.
in his khadi kurta. He was a Gandhian till the end.
Yes.
And so Satya, he lived up to his name, that he
Yes.
was true to his principles, to his integrity. And even today, in our work in the Auroveda Operating Foundation, which is a charity, we look up to him as our inspiration. So, on that note, let's bring this episode to a close, and maybe we can go to another Peacock poem before we close today.
Okay.
Thank you, viewers. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And see you soon on the Poetry Lab. Thank you and namaste.